basically save money. And once you have enough money, it's kind of called like FU money, where if you save up enough money, you be like, F you job, F you boss, F you society. I'm going to sell everything and then just live off this little bit of money and figure out what you want to do with your life.
Welcome to the On Fire Podcast, Episode 9.
With your hosts, Matt
and Kellen. On Fire is a weekly podcast where we discuss financial independence, life hacking, frugality, minimalism, and living within your means.
Reviews. You guys are tired of me begging for reviews. I get it. But I thought we had something special, and yet you still haven't left us a review. WTF.
In today's episode, we interviewed Tom Forsythe. Tom just got back from a 6-month mini retirement and has some insights to share about his sneak preview into early retirement.
It's so interesting the different options that the FIRE community has at our disposal. Honestly, far too many people think that there's one cookie cutter approach. But no, that's the best part about financial independence is it's a choose your own adventure.
It's interesting how most people are wanting to retire after, say, 30 years of working, and then we have the FIRE community that wants to retire in 5 to 10. But then there's this small subset of people in the FIRE community who want mini retirements along the way. I think it's a really good way to learn about themselves and really figure out what they'll want when they do enter their early retirement.
We're so excited to share this episode with you guys that I think we just want to jump into it right now.
So, welcoming to the On Fire podcast, Tom Forsythe. Tom is a contractor, a real estate investor, and a traveler of the world. Tom is chasing a different type of financial independence, with aspirations to live a more nomadic lifestyle and experience the world without needing to wonder how he's going to afford the next night at a hotel or the next dinner with a friend that he just met. Tom has a bank of knowledge with experience to share from the perspective of a contractor working for real estate investors while being an investor himself and balancing the journey to financial independence with mini retirements along the way. So thanks for joining us, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Tom.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
So we'll dive into this more later, but could you just give us kind of a 1-minute summary of what's happened for you over the last year?
Basically with over the last year, I had one rental property that I fixed up myself, and after meeting up with a bunch of investors here in town, I learned about the refinancing of the place. So basically I refinanced my place. I got a big check from the bank, and I basically used that to travel the world for the last 5 months. I've traveled to 10 different countries. I saw a lot of cool things, a lot of great experience, and I loved every minute of it. And now I'm committed to save as much money as I can and get an investment nest egg, and then use that money basically to travel all year. And I've done some of the math to figure out how much I need, and now I have a goal in my head that I need to acquire. And then eventually, I can choose where I want to live anywhere in the world. As long as it's in financial feasible. And that's my plan for the next 10 years.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
So back to the roots. Can you walk us through your background and how you came to discover the idea of financial independence?
Basically it's all come down to networking and a lot of self-education through reading books, blogs, a lot of podcasts. Even on my trip, I went through dozens of podcasts and personal finance books. So it's all, the information is out there. You just have to just read it, learn it, listen to it. And somebody's already done what I want to do, and you just need to find those people and follow what they've done. Basically.
That's awesome. Was there kind of a gateway book or blog or video or podcast?
For the travel or the personal finance?
Yeah, either.
For the finance, it was definitely Mr. Money Mustache with the simple math to retire early.
Yes,
shockingly simple. Like shockingly simple. You can retire in, I think it was 15 years if you save half your income. You can retire in like 8 years if you save 60%.
Yeah.
So it's a percentage too. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's just save half your money and you can retire.
It's such a powerful idea, right?
Yeah. It's. And then for the travel, I read the book Vagabonding. That was out. I read that on this trip. That was a good one. It's basically just travel slowly. You don't have to rush it. You don't want to be the type of person who wants to see 10 different countries in 6 days where you're just going crazy. Yeah. You want to take it slow. You want to visit these cities and just enjoy it at your own pace.
I think that's the big challenge people have is where do they get that time, right?
That's the big deal. Basically, you need to basically save money, and once you have enough money, it's kind of called like FU money, where
Yeah.
you save up enough money and be like, F you job, F you boss, F you society, I'm gonna sell everything and then just live off this little bit of money and figure out what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, and that's actually a great segue into our next question. So you've both been an employee as well as self-employed.
Yep.
So like, which do you prefer, and what are some advantages or disadvantages you've kind of experienced?
Personally, I like being self-employed. I'm able to pick the jobs I want to do now. I just basically started the company last year, and I spent 5 months of it traveling the whole world, so I don't have too much experience running my own business. But I like the freedom that I get for being my own boss. I did have a job working for my brother before that, and got a little dicey just because when your brother's your boss and your brother is exactly.
How do you find motivation? Like I found for myself, any of my self-employment type work, I found myself way more motivated than I was when I'm working for somebody else or when I was in school or anything like that. How do you find your self-motivation?
You're definitely more motivated when you're working for yourself, because you're not working for the man, because you are the man. If you don't work, then
That's cool. So the trip that you just took, was that a practice run of financial independence, or was that a mini retirement? How would you describe it?
It definitely turned into what I want to do. It was basically an unplanned, no itinerary trip. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how long I was going to go. I just made the choices in the moment. You lived in the moment, and like, okay, I'm going to go to this city. And then you just go there and you see what's there. And then when you're done there, you just open up a map. And then you're like, okay, what's the next closest city? Okay, I'll go there. And then, it's just very nomadic. The key is being flexible. Basically, being flexible allows you to get cheaper tickets, cheaper flight tickets, cheaper bus tickets, cheaper like hotel stays. I'd stay in a lot of hostels. And there's the technologies out there for hostels, like Hostel World app. Basically, you just enter a city and it shows you all the hostels. And it tells you
What's that called again?
Hostel World.
Okay.
And that's basically how I found all my places to stay. It's all full of reviews. People tell you what's good or bad.
I think there's a really big point there that I just kind of want to double down on. You mentioned being flexible.
Yeah.
And so I think being flexible is just so important. And I think the key, and correct me if I'm wrong, to being flexible is not having preconceived notions, not having set expectations.
Oh, I had no expectations for this trip. So if you set your expectations low, then you can never be disappointed.
Yeah. I love that. And so not a lot of people have thought about doing what you've done, let alone actually taking the leap and started doing it. So we're kind of curious, have you always been comfortable approaching life in kind of a unique way? Like, have you always marched to your own drummer?
I would say yes.
But
yeah.
so what was kind of the reaction from friends and family when you told them that you were going to?
Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing this? You're quitting a job and you're just traveling the world. But I bet they're all a little jealous because basically I got to travel the world. I didn't have any stress about money or anything because I knew I had a bunch saved up. I knew any problem that came up, I'd be like, Visa, get me out of this Trump shithole country. I had no stress about work or money or finances because I knew I had enough FU money saved up.
Yeah. So what did you say to people? Did you say, I'm going on a trip for X period of time? Did you say that I'm going, I don't know when I'm coming back?
I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again, basically.
You know what I love about this? Like, you're going to do this again. And, this first time you told your family and they're like, you're crazy. This is nuts. And then now you've come back. You have all these amazing stories to tell people and they're a little bit envious. Yeah. And you're going to do it again. And all of a sudden people are going to start realizing this isn't just a fluke. This is something that people can do.
Yeah. It's a global arbitrage is basically being able to work in places that have lower costs of living. So basically you can travel around and live in these places where you can live Like in Thailand, you can live off $1,000 a month easy. Eastern Europe, you can live off around that too. Like it's about finding these places with the lower cost of living that's still livable places. Like here in Canada, I honestly don't see myself living here indefinitely. I'm definitely going to travel to the cheaper parts of the world, which means I'm able to save more money because my cost of living is lower.
Tim Ferriss has talked about that, the idea of earning in Western dollars and then spending in pesos.
Yes. The conversion rates for some countries is just crazy. My favorite country was definitely Hungary. I was in Budapest for a bit, and like you can get a beer for 80 cents. You can get a slice of pizza for $1.25. You can get a shawarma for $2 or $3. And yeah, the hostels were super cheap, and it's
wow.
Yeah, like.
So how did you decide on the length and the time and your budget?
I just live in the moment. You just live day by day. If you like it, you keep going. If you're fed up with it, you just book a flight home, and I could have came home at any point. Like even I got homesick like quarter of the way through, and I'm like, okay, I need to figure out when I'm going to get home because I've been traveling for the last, I think it was 5 months or 4 months at that time. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to book all my flights so that I have an idea in my head when I was going to be home.
So what was it like when you did get back? What was it like to get back in the swing of things? And like, did you have a new sense of motivation? Did you like now the goal that was that much clearer, or it was just that much more difficult to get back to work, or what was your?
I'm still having motivation issues with getting back to work because I'm still kind of in vacation mode. But it's definitely ingrained the idea of being able to travel year round because the trip cost me about $15,000 for 5 months of traveling. I did break that. I did record all the numbers, and there's definitely ways I could make it even lower next time. Like there's $2,000 in gear, which next trip I don't have to buy the backpack or buy all that stuff.
That's amazing though. $15,000 for
so yeah,
5
that's only
months.
$30,000 a year. So that's definitely lean fire.
Yeah,
right there. So using the 4% rule, that's $750,000 I need saved up, and if I want to save that in 10 years, I have to somehow save $75,000. But if you have that goal in your head, the money just shows up. Like if you visualize what you want, the world will give it to you. The world conspires to help you succeed in your goals. You just have to have the goal.
That's a great great perspective. And so just circling back to that $15,000 amount, was that like the moment you stepped on the plane, did you know I'm going to spend only $15,000? Did you have it set aside in a savings account? I know a lot of us are very, engineer oriented. We like to really plan and have spreadsheets. How?
I'm not a spreadsheet guy. I don't know how to use Excel too well. So basically, a lot of the money was just sitting in bank accounts. When I got the check, I did some hard money lending with some of it, and then the rest was just sitting in a basic bank account. It wasn't really optimized for investing or whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was just a checkings account.
On a high level, can you talk a bit more about hard money lending and your experience with it? And like, would you advise other people to do this as well?
Once again, it's another thing where it's good to be flexible. You can basically find business owners or real estate investors who are looking for money for their projects, and you basically just loan them a bunch of money. They give you a piece of paper saying, "Hey, I'll pay you back at this interest rate," and you just hope he does. So it's definitely a lot riskier than like a government issued bond or something like that, but the interest rates are a lot higher than you would find anywhere else. And yeah, so you just have to be flexible, get the contracts in order of when you're going to get paid and exactly how much.
And so talking about, so you created this plan to travel.
Yep.
What actually made it a reality for you? So you kind of talked already at the high level that you refinanced a rental property.
Yep.
But talk about maybe a little bit more of your lifestyle leading up to it. So we know you're a big fan of bicycles.
Yeah. So I've always been pretty frugal. I grew up the youngest of 4. I was raised by a single mom, and my dad. I visited my dad every other weekend. So basically, my mom was super hardworking. She worked multiple jobs, so I got a great work ethic from her. And then I've always my first job, I was like a paper boy. So I've pretty much damn near always had a job. So I delivered papers for 6 years. So that was a great foundation of managing money at a young age, because I never got allowance, I never got handouts from my parents. I had to buy all my own things, so I was always managing my own funds from an early age, which I think is huge. My kids, they're not going to get shit. They're not getting money or anything. I will teach them about money, but I'm not giving them anything. And yeah, so I watched my parents. My dad is an entrepreneur. He started his own business. So that was a good inspiration there. Now both my other brothers are entrepreneurs too. They both have their own businesses. So it's kind of running the family to basically work hard, try to make your own business. And I've always been really frugal. We were like lower middle class growing up. So we always had food and shelter and everything, but we never had any extras. So I've always worked hard. I've learned how to save money. I rode a bicycle until I was 26, because
But you didn't have a vehicle until you were 26.
I didn't have a vehicle until I was 26. I basically biked around everywhere, bummed rides around, and I always chipped in on gas, though. I wasn't.
Let's dive into that a bit further, because a lot of our listeners are going to be familiar with Mr. Money Mustache and huge fans of his. And so talk about doing the renovations on your rental property with a bicycle.
Yeah, so I bought a house. It was a handyman special. The house is 120 years old. Nothing square, level. Everything needed to be gutted out. And I always was working in construction as a carpenter. So I would basically work my full-time job, and then on evenings and weekends I would work on this house. So it took me 10 months of renovating. I didn't have a truck or anything. I would have to ride my bicycle to the building supply store, order everything plus a little bit, get it delivered to the house. And I did all the work myself over 10 months. It was definitely a huge learning experience. I pulled permits, so I learned the whole process of dealing with the city and all that, how much of a nightmare that is.
It certainly can be.
And the renovation budget blew out of the water, because I'm already gutting this room, let's just gut the next room. And I basically spent all my money on it, and then I had to spend every paycheck basically for the 10 months of, okay, the next paycheck I'll buy the insulation. The paycheck after that I would buy the drywall or however it worked out. And yeah, so I renovated a house with the bicycle. I eventually got it rented out, and then I used the first and last month's rent to buy myself a truck. So then renovations after that got a lot easier once you're able to pick up your own stuff.
So what were you doing for your living situation at that time? Because you bought a house, you were renovating it for 10 months. Where were you living? What was your situation? What was your plan there?
My sister in 2001 moved into an apartment in downtown London. She was paying like $400 a month, and she became really good friends with the landlord. So basically she lived there for 5 years, and then my oldest brother took over the lease, paying the same amount for 5 years or so. And then I took it after that, and I lived there for 6 or 7 years. So we had the same landlord, same apartment. My rent was only $500 a month, all inclusive, for right downtown London, which was fantastic. Yeah, it was perfect. So my cost of living was really low. Even the mortgage on the house was $380 for this house.
That's awesome.
So the costs to maintain my rent and maintain the house was pretty low. I was making decent money at the time, so I just threw all my money at the house.
And to be clear for anyone listening, this isn't the case for everyone in London, Ontario. Like a mortgage is very often going to be double that, and rent is very often going to be double that. Yeah. You were able to manufacture a situation where you're able to live for this cheap and get your rental income from a property that had a mortgage that small, just because of strategic decisions.
Yeah, it was definitely some strategic decisions, and I've lived a pretty privileged life where a lot of my advantages I have no control over. That's what means being privileged, because I knew my brother who lived in this place, and he gave it to me. I had no control over that. I just luckily I had a sibling that had a good place to live.
It's really interesting, though. I think that just to re-highlight that for our listeners, a lot of people think that either you're all in on real estate or you're not. So they naturally assume that if you're going to be a landlord, that you're naturally going to own the property that you're going to live in. But you're essentially highlighting or living what Grant Cardone's constantly preaching about. Never own where you live, right?
I'm a renter. I'd highly doubt I'll buy a house just for myself. Real estate is I would rather be more flexible. Once again, it goes back to the travel thing where I can just say, sorry, landlord, I'm moving out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go live in Eastern Europe for the next half a year. And then I don't have to worry about a mortgage payment on my own house.
Yeah. And so talking about going to live in Eastern Europe for half a year, how did you manage your rental property while you were away? I think that a lot of landlords think that they're tethered geographically.
I got so lucky with an amazing tenant. She's a fantastic girl. Basically, I was still in contact with email, so any issues she had, she would just email me, and I would just email her back on what needs to be done. But over the 5 months, I didn't really have any issues at all. She wanted a new microwave installed, so she went on Kijiji, bought a above-range microwave. I had a handyman in place, and I just sent them both an email. And then he installed it, and then she just took the money off rent, and she was happy, and I was sitting on a beach in Croatia.
That's so awesome. So I guess a lot of our listeners are landlords or aspiring landlords. Any tips for them on how to either find that amazing tenant or on how to manage your property when you're out of country?
A lot of it's luck to find good tenants. Like when I was finding the tenant, I had over 30 people interested in the place.
And so some of that luck of having that much interest was probably the fact that you renovated the property to such a high standard.
Yeah, from the before and after videos that I got, might be able to share the link on the notes.
Actually, so just not to interrupt, but just for anyone that's listening that knows my YouTube channel, literally the reason I started my YouTube channel was that I'd seen Tom's initial before video, and he just did it on his cell phone. He just walked through the property, and he's just narrating a little bit about the property. And like it was like a 2, 3, maybe 4 minute video. But in that period of time, I felt like I completely understood that property. That I completely understood what he was going to do with it. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like this medium, I need to jump into this.
And to go even more full circle, this video you posted on Bigger Pockets, and that was at a time when all of us had just started meeting each other.
Networking,
that's how it all came to happen. Basically, I didn't know anything about investing before I bought this house. I worked instructions like, I'll buy a house and fix it up myself and somehow profit along the way. So I bought this house, fixed it up, but then I rented out and I was broke. My credit cards were maxed out, so I was like, how do I come up with the money for the next down payment? And I had no idea how to do that. And then I heard on the radio, Flipping Boston was the name of the TV show. They were like, they're coming to London. It's like, you want to know how to finance real estate deals? Come to our seminar. I'm like, yeah, I want to know how to finance real estate deals.
How do people afford this?
Yeah, exactly. I was broke, and I was broke because I invested all my money into this property. I went to the free seminar. I was inspired to go to the paid seminar, which was $2,000 for a weekend course. And I took this course, and they taught me all the basics from wholesaling to finding the deals to finance them. They were really big on credit cards. They're like, I have 27 credit cards. I buy houses with credit cards. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? I don't recommend that, but that was just one strategy. They'd write you a check with credit card checks. They write yourself a check, so then you get the money into your bank account, then you use that money as the down payment, and then you just pay it off once you're done the
Interesting.
deal.
Wow.
But lots of high interest.
So in general, that course or that weekend seminar you went to, it sounds like you feel like you got value from it?
I definitely got value. It definitely motivated me. I basically took that course, took all these notes, and then I went on Reddit. And I posted, hey, I just paid all this money for this course. I'm going to give you all this information I learned for free. Take it, do what you want with it.
Cool.
Wow.
And then someone posted, they're like, oh, hey, sorry to bust your bubble, but if you go to this website called biggerpockets.com, you can learn all this stuff you just learned for free. I was like, shit. Okay. yeah, so then I found Bigger Pockets, started listening to the podcast, and that's where I found the local meetup group here in London when it just started.
Yeah.
I think it was like
we were like day one.
day one, so it was the perfect timing.
You know what I love about this is you went and you took this course and you like, I want to give, right? So you went on Reddit and you're like, I want to share all this information with the world.
Yep.
And you did, and somebody else decided, I want to share this website, Bigger Pockets, and they were giving. And then you go on Bigger Pockets, and one of the first things you do is post your video and share with people what your experience with your renovation.
Yep.
Matt learns from it.
Yeah.
Matt's now doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Everyone's giving, and all it's resulting in is them like getting things, right? Their life gets that much better when they give that much more.
Yeah, it's better to give, for sure.
So, you had your rental property income while you were away. Did you have any other streams of income while you were traveling, like passive or otherwise?
It was like the hard money lending. I had a bunch of money invested there.
Yeah.
I lent some money to some other investors. But other than that...
Did you work for anything while you were away, or was this purely like, I'm not going to work?
No, I didn't work. The girl, I met a girl in Ireland. I stayed at her place. I did a little work. The landlord came over with a toilet seat. He's like, "Oh, I'm double parked out front. I don't have time to install a toilet seat. Can you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." So, plenty of toilet seats. But the European toilets are a little different.
I was literally just gonna make a joke.
Yeah, they're a little bit different where you can't screw the nuts below. There's no access, so it's basically you have to use a plug to screw the bolts into. But the toilet seat he brought me wasn't designed for this toilet, so I had to go to the store, and then they were like €50 for a goddamn toilet seat.
Wow.
I didn't want to spend the money on it until he confirmed that he wanted a new toilet. And then the plugs for this new toilet seat didn't fit in the holes, so I had to go back to the hardware store for the third time. So
You get a little bit of PTSD.
yeah, so it was 3 trips to install one toilet seat. And
Post-toilet.
But no, I didn't really work on this trip. I had a few people. An Airbnb lady found out that I'm a carpenter. She's like, "Oh, do you want to install some flooring upstairs?" I'm like, "No, I'm on vacation. Sorry, maybe later."
That's awesome. And so while saving up for your trip, where were some areas you kind of focused on to create savings? So we talked about, you kept your transportation costs low. We also know you kind of keep your food costs low, right?
Yeah. One of my biggest savings is to learn how to cook. Like, I've always liked to cook. I watch a lot of TV shows on the Food Network. I love. And once you learn how to cook, you can make all your delicious own meals. Like, I make a lot of takeout dishes like pizza and tacos and whatever. And if you can buy it for a fraction of the cost than you would be for going out. So that's how I saved a lot of money there. Transportation now, I have my own truck, and every time I have to spend more money on the truck, I'm just like, oh, I really don't want to spend the money on this damn liability. But as a carpenter, you need it. That's my dilemma.
It's a tool of the trade, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, do you have a goal or a milestone for your financial independence number, or do you prefer the idea of kind of working off and on rather than like just pure delayed gratification until you're financially independent?
Yeah, I do have a number now. Now that I did the trip around the world, it cost me $15,000 for half a year. So that means I need $30,000 a year of passive income. That's either going to come from more rental properties or just investing in index funds. I did a lot of reading on index funds, and they're flipping amazing. You just basically throw your money in a fund, and it makes you a bunch of money, and there's like little risk. There's volatility, but the risk is low. So yeah, my goal is to make $30,000 a year of passive income, and that's enough money for me to travel around the world.
I think like we've touched upon like the 4% safe withdrawal rate before. We've touched upon ETFs and index funds. I think there's only really so much to say. Like that's what you need to do. You find your number.
Yep.
And save to that number. And we tend to talk a lot about real estate because of the people that we're involved with. But like you can do this any way you want. You can earn money any way you want. You can.
Long term, I don't want any real estate. I don't want to deal with the tenant calls or anything like that. Once you have enough actual money invested in the stock market, it's just all passive. It's just you don't have to worry about anything. breaking, no capital expenses, nothing like that. Real estate will help you get there quicker, but long term, I don't really want to own.
This is a reoccurring theme I tend to hear often. We've had Michael Rosehart on the podcast. That's a big thing that he's into right now. He had up to 15 properties. He's getting down closer. His goal is to get down to 4.
Yeah.
And he wants to take all of that money, put it into index funds, and live on passive income.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not all about how you're earning your money. Like, yeah, a lot of us are earning our money in real estate, but the end goal is to have money in an ETF and live passively for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And so maybe switching gears now a little bit, let's talk about the travel some more. So I know that probably a lot of our listeners all aspire to maybe travel the world to experience what you experienced. So before we start barraging you with a bunch of questions, is there a particular story or experience you'd like to share with the audience, just in general, about your travels?
I just want to say traveling is an amazing, humbling experience. You get to see how other people live in different countries. You get to appreciate all the opportunities you have in your home country. Like, I was in Africa for 10 days, and you just see the opportunities they have aren't very good. Like,
Where in Africa?
I was in Senegal. Dakar is the city, and basically you just see poverty. You see people basically selling peanuts on the side of the road to peoples and vehicles, but there's like one guy selling peanuts, there's 50 other guys selling the exact same bag of peanuts to each other, and it's just like, if that's the only opportunity you have in life, that's hard to get on. So I'm very thankful
that is
and
humbling.
grateful that I was born in this country and have all the opportunities I've had. So travel, I have nothing to complain about. I eat 3 meals a day. I have electricity, running water, all the things you take for granted when you live here. And then when you get to travel the world, you see that not everyone has the same advantages as I do. So it's definitely humbling to travel.
Yeah. I think like anyone in North America in general, you're gonna be dealt a better hand than a lot of these other countries.
Yep.
And I mean, you take that hand, you do what you can with it.
Yep.
So, did you have any tips for fellow aspiring world travelers? How can they travel on a budget?
Well, just stay in hostels. Try to find hostels that have their own food servicing, like little kitchens. So a lot of my trip, I cooked all my own food. I lived off tortillas, rice, peanut butter. I traveled with a French press, a little camping one that was all metal. So basically, I was able to make my own coffee. Well, that saved me so much because I'm addicted to the stuff. So I need coffee every day, and when you're spending $2 to $3 on coffee on takeout, it just adds up to so much. So I was able to make my own coffee the whole trip, which alone saved me a bunch of money.
That's a really interesting tip. I don't think a lot of people would necessarily think of that. How did you come to that conclusion that the French press was something you needed to bring with you? Or
I always use one at home, so I'm very familiar with how they work.
Yeah.
You basically just need boiling water in the French press, and you can make coffee.
And this is coming from, I think, more from like the camping world, right? Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Canadian Tire purchase for like $12 or whatever
wow.
it was.
Huh.
So it was cheap. You can get them on Amazon or whatever.
yeah.
Being flexible with your travel dates is key. Picking cheap flights on a Tuesday is better than on a Friday type thing.
Yeah, that flexibility really adds to the cost.
Yeah.
Were you living out of a backpack throughout this time, or like what were you?
Yeah, basically, I lived out of a backpack for 5 months. I had 3 shirts, 4 shorts maybe, a pair of jeans, a couple pairs of underwear, and yeah, so I had like, oh, what am I going to wear today? The black shirt, the gray shirt, or the white shirt? Pick one. Whatever one smelled the least worst, I guess.
And so how did you determine what all to pack? Like, so other than, say, your basic clothing needs, what else did you bring along with you other than the French press? Did you bring a laptop with you?
No laptop. I just had a phone. My next trip, I definitely going to invest in a good laptop, because I wish I just had one, but I kind of like, I play video games a lot, so I was like, I'm gonna go on this trip and not play any video games and do all that. But I was still playing video games on my phone, so it didn't really solve anything. I still love playing them, so that'll never stop anyways.
We've talked a lot actually about minimalism on this podcast. Did this change your mindset in terms of minimalism? Like, I can live out of a backpack now.
Yes, since I've come back, I'm like, I don't want to buy any material items. Like, I just moved into an apartment, and I'm like, I don't really want to buy a couch because I might not need it forever. So I'll get a free couch. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I want to spend money on a couch. Even like a bookcase. I built one myself out of some clearance lumber from Rona. And then I built a bunch of other things. And then I actually I took my hammock and strung it up in the apartment. I was able to put some holes in the wall and put some eye hooks and then just strung up the hammock. I'm like, oh, now that's my couch. Like, it sucks for other people who want to come over and hang out.
I have a side story. When I was renting in an apartment building, I hung up my hammock as well. It's a backpacking hammock. And I tied it into the wall. Like, I put up an eye bolt in the wall, and I thought it was a stud that I got into, but it was just like strapping in the wall.
Yeah.
So I laid down on the hammock, and I was like, "Oh, this is so great! I'm so comfortable." And then all of a sudden, and then the wall just came crashing down.
Yep.
There was like this 5-foot hole in the wall.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being a carpenter is you usually can find studs.
I learned how to drywall that day. So.
Did landlord
I didn't want to tell my landlord.
I was gonna say, did the landlord ever find out?
No, the landlord never found out. But honestly, like, if me as the landlord, I would if they fixed it and painted the wall after.
Oh yeah,
I'd be
don't worry,
perfectly fine.
I'll fill all the holes when I leave.
That's awesome. So Tim Ferriss talks about earning Western dollars while spending your money in, say, pesos.
Yep.
Where are some of the cheapest places you found to travel, or where would you make, or where do you think would make for an interesting fire location if someone wanted to retire somewhere out of North America?
Basically, the cheapest country I was in would definitely be Thailand. You can rent a fully furnished apartment through Airbnb for $20 to $25 a night.
Wow.
You can go to the restaurant down the street and get chicken pad thai for $1.25, $1.50. I got a full course Indian meal with the naan, the rice, the butter chicken, and a beer for $7. So the cost of living there is cheap.
It's like a third to a quarter of the cost.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Wow.
But you don't have all the amenities as you would here. That's the trade-off. Eastern Europe was really cheap. Like Hungary, Croatia, same thing. 80 cents for a beer, $1.25 for pizza. It was
Wow.
yeah. So I can definitely see myself living somewhere else other than Canada, because we have winter, and winter
It's
kind of
terrible.
sucks. It's good in moments. But
Another humbling experience.
Yes.
It makes you enjoy summer that much more.
Yeah.
I mean, the older I get, the older winter gets, as far as I'm concerned. It was fun when I was a kid, but I don't know about
Yeah.
4 or 5 months of it.
While you were traveling, did you how closely did you watch your spending? Did you decide when it was time to splurge, when it was time to save?
I was very cost conscious on where I was spending my money. Basically, it was always like the second cheapest hostel, or I didn't eat out a lot, so I was able to save tons of money just being able to cook. A lot of the excursions that you can get for like tours and stuff, I would look online to see, like, there's Game of Thrones is huge, so there's a lot of Game of Thrones filming locations all over the world. But you can go on a guided tour for $100, or you can just go online and find out where the spots they actually filmed, and you can just walk there yourself and take the same pictures you would on the tour.
Another great example of getting the same experience everyone else gets for a fraction of the cost, if not free.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it like to travel alone? What was your experience with travel before this? Maybe that's the better spot to start.
Yeah, so 4 years ago, I did another backpacking trip for 2 months. A friend of mine said, "Hey, do you want to go to me with Southeast Asia for 2 months?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So basically, once again, I kind of quit my job, but I got the job back when I came back anyways. And that was the first real adventure. Me and a good longtime friend went to Thailand and Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. And that was my first trip away out of Canada. It was a fantastic experience. It's planted the travel bug. So
Yeah.
that was the first trip. But it was the first bit of it was with him. And then he eventually went home, and I did 2 weeks of solo travel. So that's when I got my first experience with traveling alone. There's definitely advantages and disadvantages. Advantages, you can do whatever you want. You can wake up and leave. You can take a nap, and you don't have to worry about other people, what they want to do. Disadvantages is it can be lonely at times. You go to restaurants and you eat alone type thing, so it can be kind of depressing at some points. But then if you're staying in hostels, you meet people, you share stories, and then you travel with them. Like, oh, I'm going to this national park. Oh, I'll go with you tomorrow. Let's do it together. And you just meet people and have great conversations. But I definitely do like the solo travel. It was, once again, it's freedom and control. That's my why I want to do this, is just to have control over what I do every day. The choices I get to make, I can make them myself without worrying about like finances and everything. It's just I'm in complete control of my day-to-day choices. I can choose where I want to go, where I want to stay, what I want to do.
That's awesome. And so what are your thoughts? Let's say someone hasn't done a lot of travel before. Do you think should they leap right into solo travel themselves, or should they
I would
do you think that ease it in with a friend? Did that help you?
I would do it with a friend first, so that you can bounce each ideas off each other on how to solve problems, because there's problems that come up when traveling, and most of it goes away if you have money. So but if it's your first time backpacking, I would recommend do it with somebody. It depends on your personality too. Like,
sure.
I'm an introvert. Talking to people can be draining for me. I regain my energy when I'm alone. I would recommend travel with somebody first. Once you get the feel of it, then you can decide if it's solos.
And so do you think, are there certain countries or areas or regions that are better to solo travel, or to...
I've done Europe and basically Southeast Asia. You can do solo, you can do groups in both. It really doesn't matter. Asia would probably be better for a partner, I would think, just because it's very scammy. Everyone's out there to get your money.
Just for safety and stuff, right? Just for
safety, yeah.
So now that you've essentially done the around the world trip, is there certain things you would do differently now with hindsight?
Travel hacking. I've been listening to a podcast on how to travel hack. Is basically credit card churning, where you sign up for a credit card, you get the bonus miles. The podcast is for American credit cards, so it's a little different than the Canadian one.
I've done a fair amount of this myself. So like in Canada, Aeroplan, but it's same as like Air Miles or any of that. Sign up for a card, they give you a bunch of points. Ride it out for a year. Maybe you have to pay the first year fee, or maybe the first year's free. Cancel the card, re-sign up for somewhere else. Every 2 or 3 years, you can churn and get a new card.
So that would be a good travel hack. Booking flights in advance is always good for saving money.
And so you guys have heard, we have a few recurring segments, and we decided we're going to bunch them together now, and so we're calling it the Fire Four.
Fire Four.
And so the first one, Tom, is Spreadsheet Junkie. So you kind of got into this earlier, but just so that we're clear, do you track your net worth? Do you budget? Do you track your daily expenses? How do you approach tracking your finances, or do you?
I don't have any personal spreadsheets. I do have a Mint account that's linked to all my investment accounts and bank accounts, so I can see how much money's in there. For budgeting, I actually do keep an app. It's called CW Money.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
Basically you can put all your expenses into it. You can create little groups of what the actual expenses are, and it's a good way to itemize all your expenses, and it's not linked to any of your accounts or anything, so it's all manual. But you push a button and it prints out a bar graph or a pie chart of where all your money's going. So I really like that app. Definitely this year, I'm going to be cutting as much living expenses down as possible.
Now that you have this goal, this major vision.
I have to save $750,000.
Easy peasy.
In 10 years, that's $75,000 a year. I don't even make that much, but I have to save that much money. So
it gets easier once you start compounding. Right?
Oh yeah, once you get halfway, the other half's a lot quicker.
So, do you have any guilty pleasures that you have in your day-to-day life? Is there something that you like to buy that maybe isn't the most frugal, or?
I like tools. I am a carpenter, so I have very nice DeWalt tools. I like spending money on things that make me money or things that'll save me money. So I'm a big cook, so I have a lot of pots and pans, and the Instant Pot is my new favorite appliance. I definitely recommend you guys Google that.
Well, tell us about that. What is that?
Basically, it's an appliance that sits on your countertop, and it's a 7-in-1 cooker. It's a pressure cooker, slow cooker, rice maker, yogurt maker, steamer, sterilizer, and you can basically, it's computerized, so you just punch in how long you want it to cook, and it'll set all the pressure and everything, and it cooks in 1/5 of the time it normally would. So you can take dried beans from your pantry, throw it in there with some stock and onion and some celery, and within 35-45 minutes you have perfectly cooked beans ready to eat. So it's definitely a frugality investment, because you can buy all the barley and beans from dry and you just throw them in.
Yeah.
Super cheap, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And so actually our third question was going to be, is there a tool you can't live without, something to buy for life? But it sounds like
well, you can live without that, but
okay. So what's a different tool that you maybe couldn't live without, or something where you'd really spend a lot of extra money on this because it's something you're maybe going to keep with you on your journey throughout your life, instead of that couch that you're not necessarily going to hold on to?
A good hammock's good. But that's my personal taste.
Yeah, no, that's
awesome.
great.
So is there a frugality tip or a life hack that you'd like to share with the listeners in general?
The biggest one that saved me the most money is learn how to cook. You can spend so much money eating out when it'll cost you a fraction of the cost to make it yourself. And you I enjoy cooking, so it's a real passion of mine. So that's maybe why I like it so much. Not everyone likes to cook, because every act of cooking means one act of cleaning. So there's a lot of dishes and all that. But yeah, learn to cook will save you thousands of dollars.
And any tips on how someone could learn to cook if they...
Where I learned all my stuff was a show called Good Eats with Alton Brown. I don't know, you can download it illegally because I don't think you can find it on YouTube. Well, you can find it on YouTube, but it's all shitty episodes. But he teaches you the science behind cooking. So it's not just how to cook something, it's the reason why you brown things, or the chemical reactions that happen.
Neat.
So it's like scientific reasoning of why you actually...
So you can then apply those principles to other situations.
Yeah.
I love that,
and
actually.
You just know the basics of what's actually happening, and then you can take any vegetable or anything and just apply the same principles, and then you can cook anything.
Cool.
You know
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just before we wrap up, we usually like to ask our guests if there's a question they'd like to ask the audience. Is there anything that comes to mind that you'd like to ask the FIRE community?
Yeah. If you could, if you had the option of not living in Canada, which country would you prefer to live in? I honestly would love Eastern Europe. I would love Hungary or Croatia, just because the cost of living's so low. And you're still close to everything with cheap airlines and everything like that. So yeah, where would you live if you didn't have to live in Canada? That's the question.
Awesome
Or
question.
your own home country.
Or your own
Yeah.
country, yes.
Yeah, that's a great question, though. So anyone that wants to answer that question, you can jump over to the London on Fire Facebook group, and we'll set up a poll question there where we'll kind of aggregate everyone's answers, and we'll let you know on the next podcast.
So where can people find you, Tom?
In my apartment.
Are you on social media or anything like that you wanted to...
I am on Instagram. I don't remember when my... It's like
People
Big
want to
T
follow your
or-
life stories, right?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun following you biking across parts of Canada.
Yeah, I did ride a bicycle from Calgary to Vancouver on this trip, and that was absolutely amazing. Awe-inspiring to see the mountains. And I honestly felt like I was moving mountains. Like I was riding the bike, looking at these massive mountains, and they were just slowly moving. So I'm like, wow, I'm moving these mountains. It's just pedaling the bike.
That's so cool.
That's awesome. So
I'll post a link to
I was
your...
going to say, we'll link to Tom's Instagram account. So those of you that really want to follow along this journey, you'll find it there. Otherwise, I think just thank you so much, Tom, for being on the show. This was fantastic.
No problem. It was my pleasure.
That was awesome. And now I kind of want to just drop everything and go travel.
Yeah, I love the idea of through hiking, where somebody hikes from the beginning of a trail to the end. It takes like 6 months. It's something that's just incompatible with normal lifestyle. So that's one of my big goals in early retirement, is to try out a through hike.
And so one thing we want to do before we let you guys go is we're at episode 9 now. We're kind of at an inflection point, and so we'd love to get your feedback. So jump over to the London on Fire Facebook group, and we're going to create a poll there, and let us know. Let us know what you're getting away from this podcast, what you'd like to see different. Is it too long? Is it too short? Do you want more of us, less of us? We want your feedback, so share it with us, please.
And make sure to tune into the next On Fire podcast, where Matt and I discuss our journey to financial independence.
Thanks for listening. This is Matt.
And Kellen, signing off.
And until the next episode, remember, being normal. Buying stuff doesn't make you happy, and always remember what Christopher McCandless said.
The very basic core of a man's living spirit is his passion for adventure. The joy of life comes from our encounters with new experiences, and hence there's no greater joy than to have an endless, changing horizon, for each day to have a new and different sun.